Hello, everybody. Welcome to Freight Forecasting on this beautiful Thursday afternoon. I'm Mike Vincent, Freight Forecaster here at FreightWaves. Got a great show today. We've done this in the past, and what I want to do is bring on a client of FreightWaves and talk to them about data and how they use data and how they use it as a value add. And so today I have my good friend Tom Curee, who is Senior Vice President of Strategy and Innovation at Kingsgate Logistics, I believe in Cincinnati, Ohio. Is that right, Tom? How are you today?
I'm great, man. That's right. We are out in the Cincinnati area.
Hogopolis, is that what it is, or used to be at one point?
Yeah, I think at one point maybe, yeah, something like that. But
yeah, because
we're excited to be on here with you.
Excellent. Yeah, there's the bridge out there with the flying pigs on it, right? I mean,
they usually do the flying pig marathon out here, and there's we get flying pig statues all over the city. It's pretty interesting to see some beautiful artistry on flying pigs. So it's something that the kids always enjoy staring at.
Yeah, the flying pigs. When pigs fly.
That's right.
Anyway, I always had a good time in Cincinnati. I've got family that lives in Cincinnati and around that area, anyways. But I'm from the Buckeye State myself, so. But Tom, I kind of want to. So at the beginning of the show here, let's just have you, if you would, give a little background on yourself and Kingsgate and what Kingsgate does for the audience here, so they have some perspective of what we're talking about today.
Absolutely. So Kingsgate Logistics, we are a second-generation family-owned business. We were founded in 1986. And in 2008, the siblings actually bought the company from their parents. And from that point, they kind of set their eyes on growth and some unique opportunities to kind of expand within the 3PL segment. So we do a lot of work with managed services clients to handle both their inbound and outbound shipping through the use of a lot of different types of technologies that we've built in-house. To actually really kind of streamline, provide greater visibility. And data is a big part of that, clearly. We are consuming data from multiple different sources, and SONAR is one of those sources that we rely on quite heavily in our business as a leading indicator for what's happening in the market. So we've been doing that for a few years now. Myself, I started in the transportation industry about 13, 14 years ago. I started in the brokerage space. I actually ended up going on working in warehousing for a little while, and then I spent about 4.5 years building a driver retention program at a large refrigerated carrier here in the Cincinnati area. And then since I've been with Kingsgate and leading kind of our charge in terms of where we're going as a company strategically and how do we leverage technology to improve supply chain challenges for our customers.
Excellent. Thanks for that, Tom. So we want to get into the data, and we've got some SONAR here, and specifically I believe you call it the market update that you send out, I think, weekly to your customers. But first, the data that you utilize inside within the four walls, within your system there, what data do you rely on really the heaviest, and kind of how has that helped you in your business with your clients, servicing your clients, et cetera, and your profitability, et cetera, being able to see what's going on in the freight markets? Can you talk to that just briefly?
Yeah, so we kind of started out a journey a few years ago to expand our use of data and technology. We've built out a pretty robust technical team that I like to brag on as much as I can. A young team who have really just taken the bull by the horns and done some really incredible things with technology. But data was kind of a key component. So when it was just one or two of us on that team, what we started doing was building our data assets, is the way I like to refer to it. So we really look at data as an asset for our company. And so we started looking at who are the key players that have data available that we could kind of tap into. Of course, SONAR has become a big one of that for us. We actually were one of the first, I think, to actually bring SONAR data directly into our McLeod TMS. And in doing so, we've really mobilized that data for the end user. And it's been really, really encouraging for that. So we lean on a lot of the data insights within SONAR. to kind of feed into our team. We, of course, have a number of other indices that we are using from other outside sources. And what we're trying to do is we're just trying to be kind of this hub that brings all of this data together. And in doing so, we're really allowing our internal users to go to one source. So I like to use the phrase one-stop shop. And we're bringing all of that data together for them. And so we really started internally first. And now what we've started doing is, and I know we'll dig into the market update a little bit, we've started facing that externally to say, hey, how do we help our clients now understand some of these data insights that we've learned so much about over the last few years? How do we now translate that over to what they're trying to do every single day?
Yeah, that's an excellent transition. Thanks for that, Tom, because that's exactly where I want to go next is the market update. And we'll go through, you were kind enough to share with me the latest one that you sent out your clients. We'll go through the specific screens and kind of what you're doing there and what you're trying to convey with that data. I imagine that those points are some of the things, those would be the major points of interest of data points, data sets, and trending that you're utilizing internally to help those customers as well. So you're kind of educating them. But so just what is the market update? How often does it come out? That type of stuff. How do you produce it?
Yeah.
What are you going for with this? What is the benefit you're trying to give to your customers, and how has it helped your business?
So, Michael, when I joined Kingsgate about 4 years ago, I think it was my third day that our largest client sent me an email directly and said, hey, I would like to meet with you. I want to talk Kingsgate. And I went to his office and we sat and we talked for quite a while. We talked about a lot of different things. But one of the things that he brought up was the need for visibility into what's happening in the industry. It's something that we had done little bits and pieces of in the past, but we hadn't really put a strategy behind how do we inform our clients of what's actually happening in the markets. So we had played with a lot of different ideas. We had been building some technology that was going to help us kind of distribute and do a lot of these things. And what really kind of pushed us into this was as we started going to clients in the last year or two, we were showing them the data that we were using. We were talking to them about what we were seeing in the market. And we just started hearing over and over again, hey, why don't you guys start doing something to deliver this to us? And from our perspective, we thought, well, you guys are getting so much from so many different people. We just don't want to be white noise. We don't just want to bring no value. And so we really kind of leaned into what our clients were telling us and said, okay, if we were going to do something like this, what would be valuable to you? And as we started building that out, we launched this officially back in March. So as COVID started hitting, there was more pressure to hear even more about the markets. And so we said, this is the right time. We had done a lot of the prep work. And so we deliver this content to do two things. First, we, of course, want to educate on the market, help them understand what may be happening. But the second piece of it is we are actually helping educate them on some of the different data sources that are out there and what it actually means. So it's a bit educational from our standpoint, and it allows them to learn a little bit more. And we have a lot of great follow-up conversations because of the data that we're actually getting out to them.
Yeah, excellent 2 points. So the two purposes really, you're getting out there. I mean, it's a value add, right? So they see you as a partner. You're being transparent, et cetera. You're educating them on what the market is right now and where it's going forward. Obviously, makes it easier when you've got price fluctuations and maybe some service fluctuations that may occur from time to time. And then you're educating them on the value of that data so that they feel more comfortable, more knowledgeable about it, and feel a bit. They trust it a little bit more when you start talking data to them. Correct?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they know that we're a trusted source. I mean, one of the main themes of who we are as a company is we like to tell our customers that we want them to be able to ship confidently. There's a lot of times where shippers don't have that level of confidence. I've sat down with a lot of shippers who have said, I've got someone who does me well, but there's some visibility that I'm lacking, or I'm not quite sure what they're doing. And we have worked really hard over the last year or two to become as transparent as we can as a provider. We've done that in the deepest levels with a client to literally open up the books and say, this is how we do business with your company, and this is what you can expect from us. And that level of transparency has to go into what's going into the markets. Too many times, people don't have that type of visibility to really know what's happening. And so by using Market Update, we're really allowing our customers to get a better feel for what's actually taking place.
Yeah, excellent. Thank you for that response. So I have followed all my instructions that Cody, our production engineer back there, yells at me every time. I have plugged in my HDMI cord and I have pressed F11. So I have brought up the first chart from the latest market update that you send out. And what I have up here, Tom, hopefully you can see this if you'll confirm that I have the outbound tender volume index, but this is just this year, right?
Correct.
Okay, and then so what you guys do is over here on this display, I can change this to show it year over year. Now you had it only on 1 year, not 2 years. I guess that is a little bit more relevant. But so showing the outbound tender volume index for 1 year, and I believe you had it like on a 3-month type of thing, right? So
Yep.
Looking at the tender volume index in SONAR year over year. This is the first thing you sent out there, and there's a whole paragraph of explanation there. I don't want you to read the entire paragraph, but what are you trying to convey here? How do you use this internally, and what are you trying to convey to your customers utilizing this particular SONAR chart?
Yeah, so there's a few things that we're doing, which kind of ties back to what I was speaking to just previously. We want to use the data to really give them some sort of an idea of what's taking place in the market. So as we talk about outbound tender volume, we're talking a lot about the pressures that they've been feeling, and we are looking at the volumes for this year over last year. And so clearly you can see volumes are significantly up. And what we've really been leaning into and talking about is what volumes look like pre-COVID into now. And as we talk about that with these customers, we're helping them understand what they're really feeling. So we've got a number of clients that use some different data sources that are good data sources, but they're old. And so they're lagging and from a time perspective. And so they don't understand why they're feeling the pressures they are now, because they're looking at data that was just released for May. And that's way too long ago. And
Right.
so what we pinpoint and we're showing them here is that if you look back pre-COVID, we were looking at levels around, 9,700 or so, and now we're peaking out a little over 13,000, and that pressure that they're feeling is these outbound volumes. Now, this is an indice that our customers aren't typically familiar with. This is new to them, and so even since March, about every month we revisit what some of these indices are. So we help to explain to them what they actually mean and what they're doing. And what we're figuring out is that they are starting to now understand what these actually mean, so that they can start saying, hey, we'll show them at a very high level view, right? We're showing them the US right now. Then from that dialogue, they'll reach out and say, hey, can you actually provide me some data specifically around Atlanta right now, or Dallas right now, or Cincinnati right now? And then we'll dig in a little bit deeper to just kind of keep that conversation going.
So on the relative market update, it's going out to your broad audience, so you keep it high level US, and then as specific instances and interactions with those customers occur, you'll dig in and give them some intelligence on what's going on in their particular markets of interest or lanes of interest, is what you're saying, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and while you were talking, I don't know if you noticed this, but I was using a couple of little tools in here, and yeah, we're sitting almost 29.19% today over a year ago. And since pre-COVID, I picked a random date, really pre-COVID, a pretty high peak actually right after the new year, 33.8% over since pre-COVID effects. Quite a climb through this year, and well over. We're peaking over 2018. If I take this display and I add a year to this, right, we get 2018. We're even higher over where 2018 was at this particular time, which was a banner year out in this area right here in July and after the 4th and pre-4th was quite high and an unbelievable breakout year, and we're just crushing that and continue to do that. A lot of people thought this particular peak before the 4th afterwards this was going to start to taper off, and it has not. There's no such thing as this little lull here or summer slump, if you will. That trend is not here this year. Are you seeing the exact same things
I was
across
one of
your
those
business?
people. I thought for sure that after the fourth, we would see that typical kind of drop that we've seen in freight historically. And I mean, we have one of our larger clients reach out to me and say, "Hey, what do you think's happening right now?" Because again, they were looking at some old data, and I said, "Listen, every sign that I see right now is pointing towards we are still seeing growth despite everything else that's taking place, and it's really a unique year." To be seeing that, but hey, we'll take it, right?
Yeah, absolutely. That's the name of the game. Hopefully, the stimulus package gets passed again, and coronavirus starts to recede, and people wear their masks, et cetera, and we get a hold of this thing, and we can keep this momentum going forward. That would be, I think, best for just about everybody, right? So hopefully we can do that. I'm going to pull up. I believe the next one on there was the outbound tender rejects, right? Is what you were looking at. So I'm just gonna click through these. I have them pre-built so that we have time. Now I have outbound tender rejects first pulled up here. If we could show that on the screen. Oh, thank you. I actually have it as relative to the last 2 years, and I thought I wanted to start with this because if you see right here, we have actually crossed 2018. In tender rejections, which was in that this particular indice as well, was another really high year for tender rejections, and shows strong pressure on rates, which we will get to in a second. So we've actually crossed it right here. Now, during those years, if I put a full year out, you'll see that 2018 continued to drop throughout the third and fourth quarter as more and more capacity really came online, and then it just leveled out. This is 2019 after coming in behind it. That just kind of stayed low throughout. You can see it kept dropping right here and stayed low throughout the year. We're seeing this massive spike. Where is this going to go? If we keep these volumes going up and these pressures going up, we're going out there. Now, in your business, Tom, I'm curious, are you seeing this as regular volume that is causing this to happen, or is there some fragmentation in those markets and having carriers not being able to get their assets positioned correctly right now, like we saw earlier in the year during a pandemic where it was just fragmented and everybody was trying to pivot really quickly?
Yeah, I do think there's some fragmentation. I had mentioned in our market update a few weeks ago, I was literally talking specifically about this crossing that I think was going to happen in 2020 versus what we saw in 2018. And it's interesting to see that we did actually just cross over that threshold. I think there's a couple of things. I think you have carriers in a really unique spot right now. They have the flexibility to look at their freight network now more than they ever have. So if you think about, many of them experienced some of the pain from COVID, where volumes came down. That if I'm a carrier, if I'm a truckload carrier, that is the time that I'm assessing my shipper community. I'm determining, are these the shippers that I want to be working with? I'm determining, did my lanes work for my fleet and for my drivers and for the team that I've got working with me? And there's a good possibility that some of those fleets have decided that they're cutting out some bad freight. I mean, everyone experiences some of that freight that they don't want to move, and because of the demand coming back the way that it was, that gave them a unique opportunity to gobble up some freight that maybe they weren't moving before, or new freight that was coming in new volumes.
They're
to
trading
create
up.
new relationships.
Yeah, trading up, right? I mean, when you've got
That's
the
it.
volume flying like this and you got people with need, you select those that you wanted to do business with, or better freight, like you said, better lanes. You trade up in a time like this, right, as a carrier.
That's it.
Yeah, that's
So
excellent.
I think we're seeing some of that for sure. I think some of the carriers, and that's why I say it's so important for the shipper community to constantly be figuring out, how do I become a shipper of choice? A lot of shippers are focused on how they bring their team members back during COVID, but you got to think about these drivers that are showing up to your docks. How is their interaction with you? Because it is weighty for them, because they're experiencing just as everyone else is, and they're the one that's coming to your dock who's being told, I can't come in and use a restroom, or whatever the story may be. And we've got to make sure that they are being serviced at the same time, because we need them to kind of move forward in what we're trying to do here in the supply chain.
Right. So Tom, I'm not going to ask you to name names, but you've got to have some shipper clients that have that freight that is, in my younger days in LTL, we used to call it ugly freight until I was taught very sternly by Tom Dobbs, our district manager, that there's no such thing as ugly freight, just poorly priced freight. But you have to have some customers that have sort of that questionable freight that may be in danger of during these times losing carriers who are trading up. What advice do you give them? How do they retain those carriers and keep them from running?
So there's a couple things. One of the things that we stress is when we act as a 3PL, we are literally working to build those relationships. And so what we've done to secure capacity for a lot of our shipper community is we've created custom built mileage band pricing. And so we're a non-asset based 3PL provider. But we actually have equipment that is solely devoted to us. And so we can actually run these trucks wherever we want to because of the special mileage band pricing that we put in place. And so while we are non-asset based, we have the unique opportunity to build relationships on behalf of our shipper community. Now, what we do on top of that is because of those relationships, we elicit a lot of feedback from our driver community. We leverage that to go back to our shippers and try to help them, especially if there's a specific location. And let's be honest, I mean, most of the time when you start talking about some of that difficult freight, you're finding a location that it takes a long time for someone to get in or out of. Yeah. And we can overcome that in a lot of different ways by just engaging with the right parties. And so we have to do our part as a 3PL. It's not enough for us to just find a truck and move the load. We have to be more relational on all sides with all parties. And so that's what we really try to stress that with our clients is let us engage in that way.
Yeah, excellent story, excellent value add, excellent advice for people that are out there. Because when I was talking in LTL terms, the actual freight itself is much more an issue in LTL than it would be in truckload, right? You're not mixing it with a bunch of other freight or cross-docking it 5 times to move it across the nation, et cetera. I've got this tender rejection pulled up. If you show it on the screen here, I'm going to change this over to what you guys looked at. And so I'm going to remove the seasonality on this. And then what you have done is actually compared this to the national spot rate, dry van spot rate, right? Isn't that what you guys did on your second?
That is correct. Yep.
So it was the DATVF.VNU, right?
That's it.
And throwing that across here. Now, it looks like it's completely useless, but what we need to do here is change this to a dual access, as you guys have done on yours, and then you can see this. So can you speak to this a little bit? What are you showing your customer base there?
Yeah, so one of the things that we are doing, and I kind of alluded to this is kind of the second point behind why we're doing the market date, is the education value of what we're trying to provide. Because these are new indices that they're not very familiar with, we're showing them the value here. So outbound tender reject index, that's something we've had to explain multiple times. But when we bring something that they're very familiar with, which is the DAT rate per mile right now, when we layer that over, we show them how they correlate. And so we've actually done some work with the University of Cincinnati where we have worked to actually bring correlations together on both of these indices to do some pretty unique forecasting for our team. And that is because you can see very clearly how the OTRI impacts that rate per mile. We want our customers to feel confident in that data, right? I mean, we can give them data for the sake of giving them data, but we want to be able to show them, look, this is why this data point matters, and this is how it's influencing everything else that you're seeing. So when we tell you that reject index is climbing, you understand that we need to secure capacity early because we do not want to get into this capacity crunch because we haven't done our due diligence. And so this is where we say, hey, let's slow down on the mini bids. Let's secure what we've got, and let's try to ride this out until we get this reject index to start coming back our way to really be able to manage what you guys are trying to do effectively. And so it's just a great visual to really show them why this data matters.
Excellent. And so we've got about 5 minutes left here, so I'm going to move over to this OTRI, and Outbound tender rejects. It's in some. Okay, well, we can just use this one right here. Let me take this DAT off right here. And I'm going to leave the outbound tender reject up there. That's total USA. But the third one that you guys had there, the last one that you had there, the third one was comparing outbound tender rejects between the different modes. And as I build this, go ahead and talk about this so we don't delay, because I'd like to get that information out there, how you guys are using this. So I'll type these in. So I'm putting in van and then flatbed and reefer.
Okay. Yeah. So what we've actually started doing. So when we first started introducing Market Update to our clients, one of the early emails we got from a client was, "Great, but what about reefer?" It was pretty much as simple as that. Thanks for all this information, but what's happening with reefer? And that kind of gave us the idea that, okay, we've got to start digging into a little bit of each market to help them understand what's happening within what they're moving, right? And that this was a large refrigerated client of ours that we said, okay, we're going to lean into this. And so what we've started doing is, and we kind of cycle this through weeks. And so this previous week, we showed a breakdown on each of them comparatively. Sometime we'll actually do one where we'll show reefer volume and reefer rejections, and then van, and so on and so forth. But what we're trying to do is show them how the markets are responding within their specific segments. So we've got some divisions that are van only, that's all they move. We've got some that are reefer only. We have some flatbed, and this flatbed is a new ad for us that we literally were just able to start introducing this to our clients to show them as well, which is now bringing them into the loop. And so that data, we're showing them the trends of what's happening and how one could be pressuring the other. So as van was maybe a little bit more sluggish for some of those rejections, we saw that a little bit earlier this year, but that reefer experienced it pretty quickly and rapidly. That ascent as COVID first hit, and then that steady ascent after COVID. So after that first COVID spike. And so we're really
Cody,
leaning into this data to show them what's happening.
Yeah, there we go. Sorry about that. Go ahead.
There it is.
Go ahead, Tom. I just wanted to pull that up because I had it ready. And you were speaking to, breaking this down. The blue is total rejections, truckload rejections, and then it's broken down. The orange here is refrigerated. The green is van, and then you have flatbed, which looked like it was going to recover nicely here, but it has since dipped. Little bit of an uptick here over the last few days, but has dropped back off. Now, you go back into pre-COVID, and it's not a whole lot different than what it was before, but you can do year-over-year comparisons. But then you were talking about the refrigerated hitting this spike here, and then its ascent as well, pulling this up, so you can kind of see what's going on there. That's excellent stuff, Tom. So we only have about a minute, 2 minutes, little less than 2 minutes left here, Tom. So when you're looking at this, it seems like you're giving away your secret sauce, right? You're letting your customers see exactly what's going on, and maybe when you're looking at those customers or dealing with those customers, it gives you, some might be thinking, this gives away my hand in pricing, etc. But you guys obviously have a different philosophy, and I know you talked about that early on, but let's close with that as well, because I think it's a solid point, because I do think that is going through people's minds when they watch this.
Yeah, so in the 3PL business, the typical turnover is with a client is somewhere between 2 to 3 years, maybe 4 years if you're lucky. Things change, people come and go, and they bring in a different provider. And a lot of times we feel that happens is because they don't have confidence. And that confidence is typically because they don't have visibility. They don't have an understanding of what that provider is doing. We still do business for our first 2 clients that we landed over 33 years ago. That is incredibly unique in the space. But that we believe that it's because of our honesty, our integrity, not that we have to layer it on anything, but because it's just who we are, that we give them the ability to ship confidently. That when they reach out to us and it's an expedited load and they know that it's going to be a higher bill, they know that we're not looking at as the opportunity to buy Timmy a new pair of shoes, right? We're looking at that to say we need to service our customer to keep that relationship cooking. And for us, it's always been about that. It's always been about providing that layer of visibility. I mean, to the point that we've got transparent programs that are built for that specific type of client. And so we remove a lot of that uncertainty. And that's what Market Update allows us to do. We want to be that type of a provider to give full visibility to everything that we possibly can. And it allows them to get a better handle on what's actually happening within their supply chain, within their freight network, even within their warehouses, as we look at SKUs on that literally level for some of these customers. And so Market Update just gives us a way to show them that, and it just helps them to ship confidently. And that's what they need to be able to do. They have 100 other things on their plate. All they need to be able to do is be confident in their shipping choices. And when we're able to kind of engage in that level, it makes it really, really nice and makes everyone comfortable.
Excellent stuff. Thank you so much for that, Tom. So, honesty, integrity, transparency, educating the customer, value add, all these things are extremely important and keys to success, quite obviously, and utilizing this data to know where the markets are going, why they were where they were, why they are where they are right now, how are you performing against those, and providing that information and educating your customers on exactly what's going on. All excellent stuff. Tom, thank you so much for joining me today. Everybody else out there, peace and love until next time. I'm Vincent with FreightWaves. We'll see you next Thursday.